Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already been here, my name is Brittany. Today I'm gonna do my Q&A. I think I'm gonna do them in either 2 parts or 3 parts. I am just gonna get started. I have them on my laptop right here. Oh my god, that's disgusting. I need to clean that. Please ignore the mom hair. I did my makeup for you guys. So I did my Q&A on my Instagram story, and then I also had some questions in the comments on my first YouTube video, my Get to Know Me, and a lot of them just have to do with Pax's hearing loss and his heart defects, so his diagnosis and ASL, questions about Paxton, our relationship, parenting, pregnancy and postpartum, and then I will probably do some of the random questions at the end or wherever I feel like they fit in. But yeah, let's get started. So one question we got a lot was, what were our first thoughts when we found out about his conditions? And when we found out about his heart defect, Chance had gone to every appointment with me. I never went alone, and this was like, everything was fine from the beginning up until this point, and this was the first appointment where I was like, no babe, like go to work, like it's just another ultrasound. We had done our anatomy scan at 20 weeks, and then they didn't get everything that they were looking for, so I had a follow-up anatomy scan at 23 weeks. So I was like, oh no, like it's just a follow-up, like they're just gonna look at the rest of, you know, the baby, blah 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 blah, like it's not a big deal, you should just go to work and then I'll let you know how it goes. I ended up going to that appointment alone, and it was fine. My mom ended up showing up at the end. Everything was fine until it was really weird. Usually you go and you get your ultrasound, and most of the time the ultrasound techs will be like, oh my gosh, here's your baby. They'll do the little scan, they'll show you little profiles, and then they say, okay, you're done. But for this appointment, she walked out, and I was sitting there by myself for like 10-15 minutes, and then she came back in and said, oh, I need to go speak to the radiologist, don't leave yet. And I was like, okay. So already right then and there, I was freaking out because that's not how it happened before. But I wasn't trying to freak out too much. Like, you know, I am an overthinker, so I didn't want to over upset myself and have nothing be wrong. She came back like 30 minutes later and said, okay, we're finished here. I was like, oh, okay. So I got up and I left. So I'm on my way home, and I get a call from my midwife, and she goes, the radiologist called me, and you know, we did see an abnormality in his heart. You know, we don't know what it is, but I just wanted to call and let you know that we saw something. She couldn't tell me any details. She was just calling me to let me know that there was something wrong with my baby, and she couldn't tell me what it was. So that was a really hard thing to hear by yourself. It was a Friday. She wasn't going to be able to get back to me until Monday, so then we sat there the whole weekend Googling and asking Dr. Google, which is one thing that you should never do because there is such a wide range of everything out there that we put the worst and the best possibilities in our brain. And I mean, I guess that's what you do, but I wish that we wouldn't have, because it just was more stressful. I personally am not an optimist. I always think about everything from the worst point of view, just so I can't be disappointed, and then I don't want to get my hopes up for anything. I think for any parent finding out about anything but good news about their child, we were just scared. We didn't know what was going to come of it. There are so many different congenital heart defects that we knew of. We didn't know if it was going to be something that could be fixed. if it needed to be something that needed to be fixed in utero, if it was going to be something that was going to be a lifelong health issue that we were going to have to deal with. We just didn't know what was to come of it. So I guess the answer to that question would be that our first thoughts when we found out were, oh my God, what does this mean? So Paxton's heart defect that he did have was transposition of the great arteries, which is also called TGA. So basically you have your heart and you have your aorta and your pulmonary valve, or your pulmonary artery. Sorry, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a mom that learned as well as I could. But you had to have your pulmonary artery and your aorta, and they crisscross typically so that your blood flows from your body to your heart to your lungs, and your lungs to your heart to your body, and it kind of goes in like a figure 8, so it helps your blood circulate correctly. His heart basically formed like that, like his aorta and his pulmonary artery were flowing his blood from his body to his heart to his body, and his lungs to his heart to his lungs. So it wasn't circulating correctly. So what they had to do was go in there and cut off the thingies and switch them so that it would circulate correctly. If that makes sense. I'm so sorry. I cannot speak more in depth about it. I was a new young mom and listened to the parts that I felt like I really needed to know, and I didn't want to stress myself out by looking too far into it when it's big words that I'm not going to understand anyways. My focus was on keeping myself healthy so that he was healthy, and that all I made sure that I knew of was we just had to hope for the best. So Pax, after we had him, he immediately went up to the NICU because of how his heart was. He wasn't able to breathe on his own. And yeah, I am so sorry. I'm not very good at talking about this because I think that in that moment, I was just in go mode. You know, what are you gonna do? I have a baby that I can't hold. I don't know what's gonna happen. I think I tried not to think about it too much so that I didn't get too upset about it, if that makes sense. You know, it was hard seeing him in there. It was hard not being able to be up there. When we were at the hospital that I delivered in, I had to stay downstairs in the birthing unit because I was still a patient, and my newborn baby that was, you know, a couple hours old had to stay in the NICU by himself. So we did send my husband straight up there after I had him to go with him, because if I couldn't be there, I obviously wanted my husband I'd rather have him there with our baby than him down with me. I feel like that was kind of hard though too, because then I didn't get to spend that time with my son and my husband. I don't know that a lot of other women do get, you know. I'm getting emotional. I'm gonna move on to the next question. So the next question was, when did we find out about his hearing loss? And typically they do a newborn hearing screening when you're in the hospital. I'm assuming it's after you give birth, before you get discharged. I'm not sure, because this was my first baby and my first experience with this, and we didn't have that at the beginning. What we did is we went straight to Seattle Children's for his heart, and that was the most important thing. So that wasn't at the top of our list. But we did the newborn hearing screening the day we were getting discharged from Seattle Children's, which was 12 days in the hospital. And that was the only thing that we were waiting on. The babies do have to be asleep for that, and Paxton wasn't sleeping, so they did tell us that we could do that outpatient instead, so that we could go home and we didn't have to stay another day, which we were really, really thankful for. So we found out at 2 months old that he had profound hearing loss, and that also was another hard day because from our understanding, the only thing that was wrong with him was his heart, and he had the surgery. He was doing great. You know, my husband, after that one appointment of finding out about his defect without him there, went to everything with me after. And you know, this was another appointment that we were like, oh, you know, his heart stuff's fine, I'm sure it's gonna be fine, it's just an audiology test, like, I'll go by myself, there's no need to not go to work. So I went there by myself, and it was another appointment where I got bad news alone. I couldn't even look at the audiologist. She just kept trying to talk to me and tell me my resources, and I just kept going, okay, okay, okay. I wanted to pick up my baby, and I wanted to run out of that doctor's office. So I took the booklet she gave me, I put my baby in his car seat, and I walked downstairs. I got to my car and called Chance and immediately started sobbing. I feel like I had oh god, I'm gonna cry. I feel like I had enough. I didn't understand why we had to go through what we went through with my pregnancy, and be like, why the world did that. You know, it took us a long time to not be mad about his heart defect, and you know, we thanked the world, and my husband thanked the Lord and said, you know, like, thank you for giving us the best possible outcome that we could have with his heart. We sat there and my husband prayed and prayed and prayed, and we had our family and our friends pray for us, and we left that hospital feeling so great. And we were like, okay, it's done. The hard part's over. You know, the hard part's over. We're good. Now we just take our baby home, and we finally get to be parents. We get to do what we were meant to do, and then this. And I didn't understand. I couldn't figure out why it had to be us, why it had to be me, why it had to be my husband, why it had to be my baby. It took a long time to not be angry with the world anymore. I think that it was probably when Pax was about, I guess it only, I mean, maybe only a couple months, but a couple months I felt like was a long time to be mad at the world and to be mad about everything that was happening to us. So I think Pax was about 4 months old after we had been introduced to our early intervention services, and we spoke to audiologists, and we knew that cochlear implants were an option, that was something we could do for him. And after us sitting there, and you know, we cried together, we thought about all of the things that he would be missing out on, and I guess in a way, after we finished mourning the loss of the things that Paxton didn't know he was missing out on, we realized that he isn't missing out on anything because he doesn't know what he's missing out on. So it was very hard to be upset about all of this when Paxton was such a happy baby. I remember immediately coming home after that appointment and not speaking to anyone. And I held Paxton and rocked him in his rocking chair for hours and just cried and told him how much I loved him and how much I didn't understand, and I was sorry that I don't know if it was something that I did or, you know, what I could have done differently. But it was hard in the beginning. It definitely was. It was hard for me. It was hard for my husband. We did decide that, you know, he was going to be fine. We know our baby. We know our son, especially now that he's older. There's not anything that's going to hold him back. We are so thankful that there is something like the cochlear implants to be available to us and available to him, because then he gets to have all of those opportunities. Like, he gets to listen to music. He gets to hear people's voices. He gets to experience all of those things that we thought he wouldn't be able to experience. And yes, I know that deaf people and deaf kids are just as happy, if not happier, than hearing people. But we weren't worried about his happiness. We weren't worried about anything. We just feel like we wanted to give him every opportunity, you know, the best chance of him hearing properly with his CIs were to be if he were to get them this young. And the best chance for him to have to speak English would to be able to get them this young. And yeah, we could get them when he's older, but he has the best possible outcome by us doing it right now. And that's why we chose to do it, because we didn't want him to get older being a deaf person in a hearing community, in a hearing world, and say, Mom, Dad, if we had that option when I was that young, why didn't you give it to me? I don't want him to ever look at me and feel like I took any opportunity away from him, because the thing is I'm not curing his deafness. This doesn't cure his deafness. He is still going to be deaf. He is just going to have the help of CIs to help him hear. And you know what? If he gets older and he says, Mom, Dad, I don't want to wear them, I don't like them, we're not going to force him to wear them. We just don't want to hold him back in any way possible. And that's why we made that decision. It's the best decision for our family. It's, as parents, that's what we decided was going to be the best decision for him. Why is Paxton deaf? It could be for a number of reasons. We are unsure the actual reason. We could have done probably more in-depth testing, and we just decided that that wasn't necessary. The pros outweighed the cons, and he was happy and healthy, and there was no need to poke and prod at him any longer. But it could have been from his heart defect. It could have been from being in the NICU for longer than a few days, and he was diagnosed with congenital CMV that they tested him for once we found out about his hearing loss. He is technically asymptomatic with congenital CMV because the only symptom he has is his hearing loss. But they think that that could have been a possibility on why he had the hearing loss. We don't know if he was born deaf, if it was something that progressed, because unfortunately, fortunately, we were focused on his heart and making sure that he was going to be alive than anything else. So it's not really something we really think about. We don't dwell on whether or not he was born deaf. I mean, we did in the beginning. We were angry at the fact that they didn't tell us that being in the NICU for longer than a few days could result in hearing loss. You know, we were mad about all of the things. We were finding somebody to blame. But now, you know, that's not any of our concern. We don't care about that. He's happy. He's healthy. Did we have any history of hearing loss in the family? From our understanding, we don't. Okay, so I am going to move on to the questions about ASL that I've gotten. very common questions that I've gotten were, where and how did I learn ASL? For me personally, my mom taught me ASL growing up. She taught me as a baby, taught me growing up. That's how I learned. I just learned the basic baby signs and my alphabet, and yeah. Currently right now, what my husband and I are doing is we're in an early intervention service program for Paxton, and we meet with her every week or 2 weeks, depending on what we want to do that month, and they sit with us and, you know, we just work on more signs. The last couple times have been holiday signs since it was Thanksgiving and then Christmas is coming up. We've done a lot of the basic signs. I think that really good resources, really honestly, is TikTok. If you find good deaf creators, and I say deaf creators because you shouldn't be learning from anybody who is hearing, because we shouldn't be teaching it. There are deaf creators on TikTok, and there is a lot of resources on YouTube. There is someone that I specifically have used before, was Bill Vickers or Vikers. I'm not actually sure how to spell his name. Say his name, but it's Bill Vicars. And he does full lessons on his YouTube account. Like, I really recommend to go and look at him. And if you're looking to learn more in depth, I would honestly recommend to just go and take a class. I'm sure there's online classes somewhere. You could always look at your local college campus, community college campus. That's probably what my husband and I are going to do here soon, so that we can learn more in depth and learn how to properly structure sentences, since our early intervention service program is focused on us signing, but also signing while we speak, because English is a really important goal to us since he's getting cochlear implants. What has our ASL journey been like? It's definitely been challenging. I mean, for me, it's come a little bit easier. For my husband, he does let people know, like on my lives and stuff like that, he lets people know that, you know, it is hard and he does struggle with it. And I think what people need to understand is that even though it seems like a hobby, like, it's a whole foreign language. ASL is a whole foreign language, and it's gonna be difficult. It is difficult. I mean, I, even having background, struggle with it. It's difficult, it's hard, but not hard enough to not try. You'll get it, you'll understand it. Like, you will need to understand that it will take time, and it takes effort, and it takes practice. But if you want to learn ASL, I am an advocate for thinking that everyone should learn ASL. I don't know why more people don't. I don't know why it's not normally taught in school as just a regular course, because I don't think people realize how common it is for people to be using it. There are way more people in the world that are deaf or hard of hearing that could use hearing people's, skills for ASL. So if you're thinking about learning, please do, because you don't know who you're gonna help. You don't know when you're gonna need it. I am so thankful that, ironically, with the world, my mom taught me growing up, and now I have a deaf son. So you never know. I think that it's so important. So if you're thinking about learning, please do. Another question I got was, how did we adjust to ASL? And we're still adjusting. We are working on signing to each other now. Signing to Paxton, I feel like, was the easy part, because you consciously know that he's deaf and he needs to be signed to in order to understand what we're saying. But I think that it's harder for my husband and I to sign to each other, because we, in our heads, as bad as it sounds, in our heads, it's like, well, you can hear me, so why don't I just use my words? But for Paxton's sake, he needs to see us signing to each other. He needs sign language to be more than just to him. So that is something we're struggling with. We are working on it, and yeah, we are still adjusting to ASL. I think we will forever be adjusting to it. Hopefully not forever. I think we'll be adjusting to it for a long time. We are not fluent. We are still learning. We're learning new things every day. But yeah. After his implants, will we continue to teach him sign? The answer is yes, because like I said previously, when I was talking about him getting his implants, he is still going to be deaf when he's not wearing them. So ASL is going to be extremely important in our house and in our lives, because the moment he takes that off, he can't hear us. And we want to be able to communicate with him at all times, which is why we chose to do ASL and English, and why we chose to use ASL in the beginning part, because, or I guess in the beginning part of his life, because he is more comfortable communicating with us through ASL. We're more comfortable communicating him with English, but that's just not the case. That's not easy for him. And as a parent, I think that you brought your child into this world, you need to adjust to what their needs are. So, someone asked, what is it like to teach sign? And I personally can't say that I teach sign because I don't, and I'm still learning. I wouldn't consider it teaching him sign. I would consider it teaching him how to communicate the same way you would teach your hearing baby how to speak English. So by us, you know, working on mom and dad and milk, that's the same way as if we were teaching him how to say mom and dad and milk. I hope that answers that question. I mean, it's hard, but I feel like it's just as hard as if we were teaching English. Obviously, that's always a hard question because I don't know any different. This is my first baby. This is my first child that I've had to teach ASL or English or anything to. So I don't know any different. I don't know what it would be like to teach a hearing baby English. I don't know what it would be like to teach a hearing baby ASL because I don't have one. But in the future, when we do have our next baby, I can let you guys know. I also got the question, how soon can you teach your baby sign? You can start teaching your baby sign as early as possible. Please do, because you may not think that they're absorbing information, but babies are like sponges and pick up everything. We started signing to him right after we found out he was deaf. And I don't feel like they show signs of understanding ASL until about 5 or 6 months. And then right about 8 or 9 months, that's when Paxton has started to do signs and repeat them with his hands if we show them. Currently at the moment, he is being stubborn and doesn't want to use his hands. He responds verbally, which we are thankful for. I'm okay with that. But yeah, as early as possible. Literally, you can start whenever, and it's never too late to teach your child sign language. It's never too late to learn sign language. So don't feel like because your baby is 1 year old or 2 years old or even 5 that you can't start there, because children are amazing. They pick up everything so quickly that you'd be surprised how much easier it is to teach them than it is to learn yourself. Another one that I got was, what are some signs you can start with when teaching your baby sign? And what we started with was mom and dad and milk. We used all of the signs that we felt like we used every day, all the time. So for me, I could look at him 24/7 and go, mum, 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 mum. I'm your mum, 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 mum. And then when Chance would get home, we'd say, oh, daddy's home. Daddy's here. And every time I would put him down for a nap, or I'd go and get his bottle, I'd go milk, and I'd show him his milk, and I'd say milk. So anything that you use every time you talk to your baby, I guess, that's when I would incorporate that sign. And it takes babies weeks and months to pick up on a new sign. Every baby is different. Every child is different. For me, even as an adult, for me, I can pick up on a new sign like that but I have experience in ASL. For my husband, it's, you know, something we have to work on for days, and then he can retain that information, and then we can start on a new sign. So everybody's different. I guess my advice to any parents learning how to sign and to teach their baby ASL is just to be patient. You have to be patient. You know, it's a new language for you. It's a new language for the kiddo. You just gotta take your time. They'll learn when they learn. I mean, if you guys have seen any of my reels or my TikTok videos, you've seen, yeah, I do sit there and I have to be patient, and I'm not gonna tell him what it is or where it is when I ask him a question, but you know, I just have to sit and wait and let it process in his brain. And although you guys see those videos of him understanding, there are times where I do try to sit down there and make content for you guys, and he doesn't want to, and he's not paying attention. Well, he's 9 months. I'm not going to force my 9-month-old to practice words so that other people can see them, if that makes sense. But you just got to be patient. But you guys got this. You got this. I didn't think I had this, and you know, it's working out. You guys got this. And I know I said be patient with kiddos, but if you're learning for yourself, take all of that information and advice that I just was telling these parents that are trying to teach their kiddos and use it on yourself. It's a new language. It's a whole language you're trying to learn. Be patient with yourself. Give yourself time. Don't try to overload your brain with all of this information and learn immediately. You're not going to learn immediately. You're going to forget. I forget. You know, it's okay to struggle. It is. So when you're learning and when you're trying to learn, please remember that this is not like kicking a ball or riding a bike. It's harder. It's a language. It's harder. It's a whole culture that you're learning about. So real quick, I'm gonna do the answers for the questions about Paxton. One question was, how did I come up with Paxton's name? Honestly, I have no idea. I think I saw it somewhere and liked it, and I made my list of the names that I liked, and then I gave it to my husband and told him to choose from that list, and that's the one he liked. So that's how we decided on Paxton's name. And then the next one was, do we plan on putting Paxton in a school for the deaf? We don't. Paxton is actually going to be homeschooled until he asks to go to school. If he doesn't ask, I'll probably still put him in high school at least, but that wasn't our plan. We do plan on making him a mainstream deaf kiddo after homeschooling, obviously, but you know, if he decides that he wants to go to a school for the deaf, we're not going to tell him no. If he wants to do it, he can do it, but that is not our plan at the moment. I did also get this question about why we use PK as his sign name. The reason why we use that is because we're not deaf and can't give him his own sign name, but we do need a name to refer to him as in sign language, and his initials are PK for Paxton Kai. So that's why we use that. Someone asked if his sign name will change in the future. I absolutely think that it will. Once someone can give him his sign name based off of their personality, I think is usually how they do it. Absolutely. I'm sure it will. But as of right now, since we don't have anyone who's deaf around us that knows Paxton and can give him a sign name, that is why we use PK. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna stop there. I feel like that was enough information for everyone to take in for the first Q&A. I am gonna do probably 1 or 2 more parts and include my husband in some so that you guys can kind of hear his point of view for things. But yeah, so don't forget to like and subscribe, leave your comments down below, let me know if I answered your questions, if you have more, if you want me to add anything into the next parts, please let me know. And if you haven't already, go check out my TikTok and check out my Instagram. I will leave them right here for a second. And yeah, thanks for watching, and thank you so much for following our journey, and we are excited to have you.